All right, so we are starting with a little bit of review on completing the square. So first of all, I want you to multiply this, x plus 2 and x plus 2, and see what you get. Because that's what's called a perfect square. See, if I wanted to, I could put them together and say there's two of them. I could say x plus 2 squared. See, perfect square. So multiply that thing out. You get x times x, x times the 2, 2 times the x. That's kind of like the same thing, 2x and 2x. That makes sense because it's a perfect square. And then 2 times 2. You should have got x squared plus 2x is 4x plus 4. Now, the thing that's cool that you're going to notice about all of these is that half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. That's the new thing for today, is recognizing that if you take half of the middle number and square it, you get this number. Let's do another one. Everybody off to the side, write this x plus 3 and x plus 3. Multiply it all out. These are called perfect squares. Is that scratch paper? Good. If you need a pencil, I'll borrow one. X times x, x squared. X times the 3, that's the outside ones, is 3x. Inside is 3x. And the last, 3 times 3 is 9. X squared plus 3x plus 3x is 6x plus 9. And watch again, half of this is 3. 3 squared is 9. And you're noticing this pattern. You take half of the middle one and you square it. Half the middle one is 3. And then you square it. 3 squared makes 9. That's going to happen on every single one that's like that. All right, so we could even set it up and go x squared plus 8x plus, I don't know what to put there, but I want it to work out perfect. Math, think about it. All right, Layla? She's whispered to me 16. Where'd she get the 16? Did she just double this? No, she did not. You take half of this, and then you square it. 16 is the magic number. Now, what's cool about the 16 that I stuck in there? Because now x plus 4, notice I'm taking the square root of this, and x plus 4, they are identical. These are the same. And so I could write them as x plus 4 squared. If I had a y equals in front of all of these, maybe this will start to make some sense as an equation. And now, if I want to get, I'm going to take notes on who's clocking in so that I might come back to present. All right, so I'm back. The thing I was trying to tell you is that if we write these together now, then this is in what's called, I'm going to put a plus 0 here. That's in vertex form. Do you remember being able to find the vertex from these? It was just there and there, before comma 0. Oh, wait, It's not quite that easy. It's not 4. What is it? -4. Very good. That was on a recent test. So I'm going to remind you about that for a second. So if I give you this equation, don't even write it, just listen. Do you see that the vertex is sitting right there, except it's not 3, 7? What is it actually? -3, 7. Now, why is the vertex the most important point of the whole parabola? Because it's the highest or the lowest spot. So I know now that if I was going to graph my parabola, it would start at -3, 7. And I'd put a dot here. And then if there's a negative in front, it's a maximum. There's no negative in front. So then that means the parabola looks like this. It's the most important part of the parabola because it's the highest or the lowest spot. And it's the only spot that is like that. Every other spot on the parabola is just kind of a random spot. But that spot, the vertex, that red spot, is the most important one. Okay, so I'm laying the groundwork for figuring out this thing called completing the square, which is one of the hard topics. It's the last day of the unit, so it should be hard. So I'm going to do one now. I'm going to get to this page right here. Remember, this is the vertex form, where that would be the vertex. And that's what my goal is, to get it to look like this. Because then I'll have the vertex, and then to graph the parabola, having the vertex is so handy. It's the most important spot on the parabola to graph. In fact, if I just sketched a vertex and I knew the vertex was like here, I could now, oh, it's going to kind of look like that. You can get a graph of the vertex. With the vertex, you can get a graph super quick. All right, so here is a typical question, and I'm going to do a complete the square. You don't know how yet, so just watch. The first thing I do is I take this 5 and I move it over. Do you agree I didn't change the value of my equation? I just moved it over. So I didn't like add anything or subtract anything. All right, now half of this and then square it. I think somebody's thinking about taking their phone out. Don't do it, please. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. And how did I get that again? Half of this and then square it. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Now, if I just go around adding 4 to my equations, like that's not allowed. There's no math thing that says you can add 4 unless you add 4 on both sides. But then my equation is not going to be solved for y anymore. So this is the first time you've ever done this. If you add 4, you subtract 4 immediately, and now it's balanced still. Just as much as if you added 4 to both sides. All right, so first step was to move the 5 over. I moved the 5 over here. That's all. Second step, I put in a number. I didn't choose randomly. I picked it on purpose. And then I put it in its opposite so that it would cancel. And I totally get, you're like, what are you even doing? Because now that part will factor. And this part is a nice simple -4 plus 5, which is 1. So here's my final answer. This part factors to x plus 2 and x plus 2, and this part is just 1. And I have already got x plus 2 squared plus 1. I got the vertex now. I didn't know the vertex before, but I know the vertex now. It's -2, 1. That was called completing the square. Now, that might be too hard for some of you, honestly. I'm just being honest. That might be one of those skills that's on the end of the test and is just too hard for you, but it shouldn't be. It's not that hard. If you do it to practice a few times, not that bad. Go to this page, please. It's the next page. Let's see if as a group, you guys can do this as a group. As in, I don't help. But I ask you guys, do you remember the first thing I did? Yes. I moved over the -12. Yep. The -12 just got moved over. Everybody do that, please. Just scribble it out and move it over. We're making room for something else. Somebody caught how I figured out what number to add and subtract. Yes. I take this and I do what to it? Half it, which is 3, and then what? Which is You got it. Everybody put a +9 there. She took half of the 6, squared it, and got 9. Somebody out there remembers what I did next. Yes? A -9. Because then they cancel each other. But we don't let it cancel each other because we did something else next. Caden, remember?
Factor the 9 with like the x.
Yes, that part gets factored. Can you actually do it? I'm glad you knew that we were supposed to do it, but do you actually know what the answer is?
Yeah, so x's in the front,
Yep,
and then would it be 3?
it is.
-3?
And there's a negative in the problem, so this has to be a negative. Now think,
And then that's also negative.
yes. If this was negative, we would have had a plus and a minus. It wasn't, so we had a minus and a minus. And there we go. And we're almost done. Who can finish this thing? Yes.
So you also need a -3 and then.
That's true. So this together,
Oh, it'd be like y equals parentheses x -3 squared -3.
yes, -3 squared. He put those together. Nice. And then these two do not make 3. It's a really classic mistake you made there.
Oh, it's -21.
Yes, because they're both negative. -21. -21. And I made my squared really sloppy, so I'm going to fix that.
How did the 9 turn into -9?
All right. We made this 9. And when you add 9, you have to counteract it. And either you could add 9 over here, but that's really clunky. Instead of adding 9 over there, you could subtract 9 right here. So we put this in here to make up for the fact that we added 9 to our equation, and it keeps it balanced. It keeps it the same as it used to be. Because if I just add 9 to something, it's not the same as it used to be. But if I add 9 to it and subtract 9, then it's the same as it used to be. That was intense, but I didn't do any of those steps. You guys did it as a group. And what's cool about it is you have the vertex. And I feel like you could do this. All right, let's do the next one. First step, move the 10 over. See if you got this. It's called completing the square. It's because it's a perfect square. And it gives you the vertex. Amina, did you know that we moved the 10 over like this, and then did you know what to do next? Half of 8 is 4, and then what? So what is it? You got it. Plus 16. Cade, do you know what to put right here?
Me?
Yes.
-16?
Yes. Decent. Can you factor that? Nope, I got the last name wrong. I'll call on somebody else. Josh Lipnick, can you factor this part?
X plus 4 squared.
Yes. You could put 2x plus 4s, or if you get really good at this, you could start realizing it's always going to be squared. And this is the easiest part. It's just a subtract problem. What's -16 plus 10? -6. Done. And what's it good for?
Finding vertex.
Vertex.
You're good for it.
All right. Now, you probably are getting the feeling that since I'm only 5 minutes into the lesson, that it must get a little harder than that. Otherwise, a 5-minute lesson can't be like the only thing. So yeah, it gets one step harder than that. But let's just make sure you got this before we go to the harder kind. All right, try this one. It's just slightly different than the last one. Just do the problem. Get the vertex. Then graph the vertex. Did you move the 6 over to make room? Paloma, what do I do next after I move the 6 over?
You square 8.
Not exactly squaring 8, no. First you take half and then you square. So what's half of 8?
4.
Square it?
16.
You got it. If you add 16, then you should probably catch on that you subtract 16. This part factors, which you can do the slow way with 2 parentheses, or I'm noticing kids are starting to give their answer just right away as something squared. X, is there a minus in the problem? Yeah, so this got to be minus. And then you take the square root of this. Square root of 16 is 4. Boom. It's factored. Only one thing left is subtracting. Minus 10. And now I know my vertex, and you can graph it over 4. Remember, this is positive 4 comma negative 10. Over 4. Down 10. And have you figured out the pattern for parabolas yet? They kind of make a U shape. Did you ever notice they go over 1 and up 1 always? And then they go over 2 and up 4. If you never noticed that before, that's how you make the U. And look, I got 5 points. Super fast. Yes?
How is that not -4?
You always do the opposite of what's inside here to figure out the vertex. It's not quite the same as what you see. It's not -4, -10. It's +4, -10. And the other way you can think of that is it's on the inside, so it's the opposite of what you think. All right, cool. Now, the hardest kind. I'm going to need to show you how to do this one. Because of that 2 in front, it doesn't work the same. But given that this whole unit is about factoring, I bet you it won't be too surprising that you have to factor. But watch me do it. Again, I don't feel like you're ready for this. So I'm going to factor out this and this. You might say, but you can't factor a 2 out of everything. You're right. I can't factor a 2 out of everything. And you've never done this before. But you can factor out of just the first 2. 2 comes out of those 2. And then I got x squared plus 2x. And then I didn't leave enough room in my parenthesis there. So far, all I did is factor the 2 out. Now, do you remember before I moved this over to make room? I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to move the -3 over. It's not like it's gone, it's just moved over. And now I do the half and square thing. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. And if I do a -1, it'll cancel it out. So the only extra step is factoring. And one more thing. I'm still done with the lesson here. After this problem, I will have showed you everything that could be on your test. Okay, but I haven't finished this one yet. No, you can't show the kids how to do the R4. That's got to be a stretch. All right, so after I've showed you this, I've showed you how to do every kind that's on the test, and we have 2 days to review. So that's good. But I haven't finished yet. You know I'm going to factor this. That's the whole point. But here's the thing that nobody thinks about, and I swear a ton of you are going to get to this moment, and then you're just going to think, oh, now I just factor this, and there's a 2 in front, and then that's the only thing. And it's so many kids are going to forget this step I'm about to do. So listen. This -1 and this +1 are meant to cancel each other out. Right? I mean, that's what their job is the +1 and the -1 are supposed to cancel each other out. But this one here is going to get multiplied by 2, and this one isn't. See, then they wouldn't cancel each other out because this one's going to be scaled up and be double big. So So then you got to double this one also. This might be the most tricky algebra thing that I have ever taught you. And there's no doubt that there'll be a strong correlation with kids that get this right and kids that get an A on this test. Because if you can handle this, you're definitely at the A level in Algebra 2. And I know, I just showed you for the first time, and we're not even done. Let me just finish it before I answer questions. The final answer is then 2, and then this part just factors to x plus 1 squared, just like always. And then this part, you got to be careful that first number is multiplied by 2. So it's -2 and a -3, which makes a -5, and I'm finally done. Yes?
Where'd you get the 1?
Where'd I get the 1? Do you remember that half and square thing? What's half of 2? And then you square 1 and you still have 1. 1 squared is 1 times 1, so that's where I got the 1 from. It's the half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, half and squared. Yes?
If the 2 in the front was like a number, like a 3,
Yep.
could you times the -1 by 3?
Yep, it's whatever is out here and multiplying by that one. The other one has to scale up accordingly. So whatever's here, you put there. I know, super intense. So, how about this? When a cheetah is trying to teach the little cheetahs how to hunt, it doesn't just go from like baby cheetah goes and takes out a gazelle. Like that's not how it works. Okay, the first, if the cheetah, the mama cheetah, that's me in this scenario, wants to help the little cheetahs learn how to hunt, you help them, but they have to like do part of the job. Okay, so I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna just start by realizing that this is one of these kind of problems where I want to move this thing over. So I'm gonna just move this over. And then I'm going to factor this first part. The 4 comes out. I got an x squared minus 4x. Can you finish it?
Have a question?
I would love to see a cheetah family learning to hunt together. Yes?
Is there a GCF for the between the two?
I get what you're saying, but all we wanted to do was take the 4 off. This is not normal factoring where we would take out the x. I get what you're saying, but then we wouldn't have a quadratic anymore, and we wouldn't be able to do the half and square thing. I'm fully aware that there's kids with like, they're going to be able to get a C on this test, but this one's going to elude them. It's just going to be too much. I'm hoping I can get everybody. I'm trying for everybody. But this is, if you don't get this, I just don't want you to think, I'm going to fail this next test. No, this is just one question.
There's only one of these on the test?
Only one of these. I mean, there's only 4 hard problems in the whole test. There's 8 easy ones and 4 hard ones. Or 5. Sorry, I'm wrong. 5. Your class, it's 5. In my honors class, it's 4.
I know the rest.
Okay. Let's see if you were able to complete it. Did you do half and square? Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. And then there's a -4 to cancel it out and bring down the +5. And then you're really close, except you forgot the most important thing. Did you remember that this 4 had to also get multiplied right there? That is not a power. That is a multiply. So 4 times 4 makes 16 out there. Final answer, 4, parentheses, x. And is there a minus in the problem? So then there has to be a minus in the answer. And it seems like it would have just been 1, but no. It's -16 plus 5, -11. Did anybody pull it off? All right, that's only 3 people. I get it. It's a hard question. And that's why we should just do one more. You ready? Maybe 2 more, but I'm hoping we can get you all at 1 more. 10x squared plus 20x plus 1. Math is really good for steps. Like step 1, you do this. Step 2, you do that. What's step 1? Low? It's getting too warm. It's your jacket. It's happened to me before too. You get all toasty, warm. It's impossible to stay awake. I want to take your jacket off or just stay awake. Virgo, just tell me what to do with the 1.
Move it up.
Yep, I'm moving it over. Sam, tell me how to factor this.
Split the 20 in half.
All right, so you're doing half and squared already. Don't do that. Maybe you missed this part. You got to factor out the 10. The 10 has to come off. Mr. Lindholm, can you tell me what I'd have?
X squared plus 2x.
Nice. I got to make more room because to be able to have it factored, there has to be this magic number here you get from half n squared. You got it?
Yep, -1.
It's positive 1 here. Whenever you square something, you're going to be timesing it by itself?
Yeah.
And then it was positive, so it's positive 1. All right, now I need a minus 1 to cancel off this positive 1, and this plus 1 is still here. Bennett, do you remember the key step that I said everybody's going to forget?
Yeah.
What is it?
Multiply that by, or times by 10.
Yes, this one here has to be times by 10. Because this one's going to times this one by 10. The counteract to it, the minus 1 over here, has to also be multiplied by 10. And then if you can clean this up, you have got it. Amina, I believe in you. Yup. Minus 9 is perfect. That's it. Raise your hand if you had that one right. And we're up to 3/4 of the class. All right. Is there any part of that that you didn't understand? All right. This is one of those things where after you've practiced it a few times, it'll be just as easy as like when you were a little kid, you learned how to skip. You know, skipping across the room. The first time you did it is pretty clunky, and then you figured it out, and then it was like, oh. But I bet you right now you probably haven't skipped for 10 years. So if you started again, very first skip would probably be a little clunky. All right, my point? If you practice something a few times, then it gets to be just automatic. Like after you'd skipped again for the first time in 10 years, you probably could skip all day and it'd be easy peasy. I hope if I give you this last one that you just like, I got this. Let's lock it in on this one. 2x squared plus 8x minus 11. And I'm going to just put it over here right off the bat. Just leave myself a ton of room right off the bat. Can you do it? Osberg, step 1.
Divide by 2.
All right. You're not wrong, but I'm going to say factor out the 2. That's just how I'm going to say it. Kirian, something with half and then squaring? So half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Nice. Sam Lowe, opposite of 4.
-4.
And then the minus 11, but then there's that classic mistake. I'm forgetting something, Sam. Do you know what I'm forgetting? It has to do with a 2.
The times of 2 to the 4.
Yes. Maura, you got the final? 2 to start with. Yep.
square.
Yep.
That is -15.
-8. I think it's -8 and -11. I think it's -19. You were really close.
I see.
That's okay. All right. And why? What is this even good for? It gives me the something starts with a V. The vertex. Give me the vertex, and that's the best point to graph with, because then you know, like, I know exactly where I start, and then you know if you get used to that pattern. Over 2, down 19, it'd be like way down here. Then it's not hard to graph these. If you have to, if nothing else, you can make an XY chart. And you know that ooh, wait, it's -2, -19, Mr. Server. I graphed it on the wrong side. It'd be like this, way down here. -2 and -19 is a point. It's the best point. And then you just find things near it, like -1 should work nice. -3 should work nice. Anything around -2. Maybe even 0 should work nice. And I can get more points on my XY chart. And eventually it would look like a parabola. Okay. You now know everything. So, I want to hit you with some of the easier problems that you might have forgotten over the weekend that are typical of this test. Do you remember how to factor out a negative? I'm going to leave that as a minus. Do you remember how to factor out a negative? Try it. Bergam, I'm factoring out a negative. What's left?
X squared.
Yep.
Plus 3x.
Yep.
Minus 4.
Perfect. He just changed all the signs. That's all you got to do. But then you'd have to look, is there a chance it could graph or factor again? And yeah, it can. It can factor again. Slap in the x's. Is there a negative in the problem? Yeah. That's a minus, which means there's a plus and a minus. What multiplies to 4? 4 and 1. Cool. Done. Does this kind give me the vertex? No. That's a completely different kind of question. This kind gives me the x-intercepts. A reminder, we're going to ask on this test for the solutions. And we go, what are the solutions? X equals this and x equals that. And you'd say x equals 1, because 1 would make this part 0. And x equals -4, because that makes this part 0. And some kids think this matters. It does not. The -1 in front does not matter. Because if you make this 0, does it matter what you multiply it by? No. So then it doesn't matter what's in front. Okay, now, tomorrow we do a review. The next day we do a review. That 2 days of review is kind of ludicrous, but this is, honestly, I could only pick one topic. You'll hear me the rest of the year. I will never say this is the most important topic again, because this is the most important topic. Factoring. This is it. This test. The most important test of the next 2 years of math. Because factoring gets used over and over and over and over and over and over. It's all the way through the end of pre-calc, which for some of you is 2 years from now. So factoring's huge. All right. So let's go find your homework assignment together. I'll cut it down to a reasonable size. Everybody please find in Schoology the folder for today, which is December 9.
Wait, what are the two math classes you take?
FST is what probably half the class is going to take. And pre-calc is probably not quite half the class. And then a few kids will choose honors pre-calc. And there's also another class you could take that's like math of home reno, and that's pretty cool. There's also a business math class you could take. But after this class, you get so many choices. The easy class is FST. The hard classes are pre-calcs. And there's some other like more practical real world classes. There's also stats. You could take stats after this class. Okay, so did you find the December 9 folder? Inside that folder, did you see a worksheet? On the worksheet, you know I usually cut them down, so I usually don't ever cross off problems 1 or 2 because I want kids to be able to start the worksheet without fear that I'm going to cross off the one that they did. So we are going to skip problem 3. And oh my gosh, this is such a short worksheet. That's all I'm skipping. Just skip number 3. Okay, so this is called complete the square. So number 1, it's the easy kind. You don't have to factor anything. It almost might be too easy. You might have forgotten how to start when they're easy. Osberg, do you remember what to do to start?
You get the x minus and then x plus in parentheses.
Are we doing the same number 1 here? I think I'm supposed to move that -4 over. That's the very first thing, but maybe you were just thinking after that. After that, you do half and squared. So I'm not sure. So half of this and squared, and what would that be?
5 and 25.
There you go. Half of it's 5, the square it's 25. So plus 25, and then minus 25. Maybe you're just way ahead of me in the problem. Now here maybe is what you were talking about. I'm not sure, but this is what you do here. And then these two together. Final answer. Osberg?
Oh, -29.
Yep. And what was this good for? Tells me the vertex. You do not have to list the vertex, but I'm showing you. I got the vertex. That's the whole point of this. All right. So, when they get difficult is like problem 4 and 5 and 6, and only on 5 and 6 they want you to graph them. Well, having the vertex really helps, but you still have to make an XY chart. So when you get to problem 5, don't forget, in fact, please go right now and put a little XY chart next to it. I think you'll forget that you got to find 5 points. On number 5, you got to find 5 points. That's how we test on these. They can't just be like, oh, I think it looks kind of like this. No, you have to have 5 distinct points on your graph. So, make yourself an XY chart for number 5 to remind yourself of that. All right, cool. It's hard to get back in the groove after a weekend, and you guys just learned the hardest algebra I've ever taught you so far this year. That's all I got for you for today.